Hello, everybody, and welcome or welcome back to the second shelf and to my October wrap up. What can I say? October was kind of a bit of a month reading wise. There were some good books, but overall it was more. You probably already gathered that if you watched my mid-month check-in. I mean, it was not that there were really bad books, but there was not a lot that grabbed me intensely. I have still 4 books to talk about that I haven't wrapped up before. But first, the statistics. As always, I will put a picture up here at some point so that you can see all the numbers, because that's what you're here for, aren't you? Anyway, so I've read a total of 12 books, which if you have been following me for some time, you know that is within my range. I read 7 books of fiction and 5 books of nonfiction. That's also pretty much standard. Nonfiction is just not half of what I read in overall. 1 work of translated fiction. It was 1 book for the 1001 Women Challenge. So 1001 books by women that I want to read. If you're interested, I will leave a link to my Goodreads shelf, because as you know, if you follow me, but if you're new, maybe you're wondering, I made my own list of 1001 books by women that I want to read before I die. It's fiction and nonfiction, because the standard books, 1001 books you have to read, is only fiction, and it's very white male centered, at least for me. So 1 book was in the 1001 Women. That was, by the way, The Hearing Trumpet by Leona Carrington. But I wrapped up that book already in my mid-month check-in video. That's the name, the mid-month check-in video. I did not read any book for the Reading Europe Challenge. Again, you probably know that. I want to read 1 book, at least 1 book, a fiction, a novel or poetry, or a play from every European country. And I identified 50 countries or something. I'm currently stuck in Belgium. I read 1 book from Belgium that I really hated. So I picked another one, but I haven't read that yet. So this challenge is not going all too well, I have to admit. I will have to give it a think for next year, because I really feel that this is a good challenge. But maybe, I don't know, I have to slow down or something. But it's not going well, because I haven't read a book for this challenge in a couple of months now. Reread, on the other hand, is going really well. I reread 4 books. 2 of them are 3 of them behind here. So, and I read 3 books by male authors. As always, towards the end of when the year's finished and I do my tops and flops, I will also do a video, excuse me, as I always do with the best dudes. So that's for the statistics. The statistic is like always, so there is nothing weird going on there, but it was just not a splendid reading month, which can also be because I was not in the best of moods, dark weather, whatever. Wrapping up the books that I haven't talked before, starting with nonfiction. I reread this book by Rebecca Solnit, The Mother of All Questions, Further Feminisms. These are, they're about 15 essays. And The Mother of All Questions, I'm not going to tell you. If my reading months are a bit like October, I often go to rereads. because I know I will enjoy that. And Rebecca Solnit is a fantastic essay writer, especially when it comes to feminism. I mean, she writes about other things as well. She wrote about her mother. She wrote about traveling. So it's not necessarily, if you're interested in Rebecca Solnit, that she's not exclusively writing about feminism, but it is one of her big topics, and as it is one of mine as well, I really like her work. This book is from, I think, 2017. So it's about 8 years old, but it's still very valuable. She talks about silencing women. She talks about conversations she had. So it's a very, I think Rebecca Solnit, if you've never read her, she has a very unique style. And in this collection, I really liked her longer 4-part essay about the short history of silence, and Cassandra Among the Creeps. That's also about silencing women. The myth of Cassandra. She knew the future, but nobody would listen to her, especially not the man. So I really enjoyed my reread of this. Then another reread, that's also something that I do when I feel my reading month is kind of I do reread something short that I really like. And for October, I picked Galatea by Madeline Miller, which is about 50 pages in this very small format, and about the Pygmalion myth. So the Greek sculptor who sculpted a very beautiful woman in white marble, called her Galatea, and then he fell in love with her, and the goddess Aphrodite, she pitied him, and she made Galatea come alive. But it wouldn't be for Madeline Miller if this is not a love story. This is not rainbows and roses and unicorns. It has, even though it's only 50 pages, it carries major punches. But I loved it. If you are into retellings, but really, really different, and also with a definite feminine twist, Galatea is a really good pick, a short read, and it's a nice little booklet. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. Okay, and then obviously October was also Victober, but this year I just didn't feel it, or in the sense that I didn't want to try anything new or do the prompts. So I did read Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Obviously not Victorian literature, but it was published in 1875, so it's the same time as Victorian literature. And I was just interested in seeing the difference between what Anna Karenina is about and what this is about. My other reread, Middlemarch by George Eliot. I think this was published 2 years maybe before Anna Karenina, is that right? Yes, 3 years, so 1872, I'm sorry. And this is, a staple of Victorian literature, of course, quite chunky, about a little town village called Middlemarch, and 10, 15 people and their lives. It starts at the center is Dorothea Brooke, a beautiful young woman who marries an older scholar, hoping that she is enamored by the idea that her husband and she would collaborate in that he writes about theology. But of course, that's not what is going to happen. But she is the opening of the book. I think I said that in my mid-month check-in. But we get a couple of chapters, maybe 10, about her. And once she married, we leave her because she's then on her honeymoon in Venice or whatever. And then we encounter 10 other people living in Middlemarch. A doctor who just started his practice, who has all kinds of ambitions, some families. So it's really, small town atmosphere that is in here. So this book is not exclusively about Dorothea Brooke. I'm just saying that if you have never read it and you start it and you feel, oh, exactly as I expected, Dorothea Brooke, and then after 10 chapters, we will forget her and leave her for another 12 chapters. So this is really small town life in the mid-19th century, and the ambitious people, and favoring the wrong people. It's a really fantastic character kaleidoscope of people and life in this town. So yeah, it was a joy to reread it. I did not reread every single page, I have to say. I pick and choose some things, because I think I also said that in my last video. I wanted to focus more on the other characters and not so much on Dorothea Brooke. So I kind of skim read parts that were about Dorothea, but yeah, it's always a joy to come back to Middlemarch, I feel. And the other book, the last book I want to talk to you about, that I did read this is my only real quote unquote Victober read, because it's Victorian literature written and set in the Victorian era. Anna Karenina is set during the same time in Russia, but it's not Victorian literature. And this one is a modern non-fiction book, but it is about the Victorian society and then women in Victorian society, by Anne Louise Booth. This book was published last year, and I was looking, before Victober even started, I was looking for a book that focuses on Victorian women. Heidi and I read a mystery written now, but set in Victorian times, and the heroine, Veronica Speedwell, is not your typical Victorian women. And we talked about that, and I was wondering, can I get more information about Victorian women and their lives? And then I found this book, and it was a good choice. I will say it's not an immense reading pleasure. It's not narrative nonfiction, telling a good story. It's a bit dry. It's also a bit repetitive, making the same point quite a couple of times too much, I would say. What we know about Victorian women, this division between the public sphere, which is exclusively for men, and the women. So there's two separate spheres. The sphere is the woman in the house, the angel of the house, which is, of course, mostly applicable to women who have enough money, or their husbands have enough money, because working class women, minorities, they couldn't afford being the angel in the house, even if they wanted to. So the book does talk about working class women, but it's not the main point. She does talk about it, so it's not only about women like the one on the cover, rich, white, wealthily married women. But I did find it really valuable because of the information. It talks about the new woman, when women started to become or trying to become doctors, the first doctor, the first architect, the first, engineer. So that was really interesting. How women were portrayed in Victorian literature. So she talks about George Eliot and the Brontes. So I thought that was really fascinating. And also when it came to literature, that is a big portion of the book is about the new woman and women in literature or women writing. And that interested me really a lot, especially coming to realize like the Brontes, for instance, or George Eliot. these are considered classics now, part of the canon. Even if you're not looking for specifically female authors, they are part of the canon. But not at the time. They were vilified. It was difficult to get published. They were getting harsh criticism because they were not feminine enough, especially, given the themes that, for instance, the Brontes explored in Wuthering Heights, or The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. It's about divorce. So it's good to remember and to realize that the Brontes were not considered classics when they published. On the contrary. So that was interesting. A couple of additional information about that. And then the other really interesting part was about Queen Victoria and marriage to Prince Albert. And that was fascinating. It's in the middle, a part, and then at the end, sort of a hypothetical question: what would have happened if Albert had died very young, in his 40s? But it's made also very clear that Queen Victoria was in this weird, she was not a feminist, even though she was the bloody ruler, but she still believed in these separate spheres, which is kind of strange. And Albert struggled because he was the head of the household, but he was also a subject to her as a ruler. So those chapters about the new woman, about literature, about writing women, about women pursuing careers for the first time, and about Queen Victoria and Albert, those were really, really interesting and made, for me, the book definitely worthwhile. Oh, by the way, I read it with Heidi from my reading life. Even though it was a bit dry and it was not, like this wonderful, pleasurable narrative nonfiction book. But I can recommend it if you are interested in getting information about legal aspects. Also, I haven't mentioned that, and women in Victorian society. So this was a really good book for me, and I think for Heidi as well, as a Victorian read, so to speak. So these are the books that I want to talk to you about. I ended October on a high note with my rereads and the information that really grabbed me from the Victorian women book. So it was not, at the end, not a bad reading month. And I'm looking forward to November, which just started. I will focus on nonfiction. I might even make a TBR video. Can you believe that? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Leave me a comment. I'm looking forward to that, and I will see you all soon in the next one, next Sunday.